Pastor Matthew, how are you?
I am doing fantastic. It's great to speak to so many people. I see the names popping up everywhere in the chat. And man, I sat through the whole introduction and I was inspired. I just wanted to hear what was going on. So I just was listening in and man, you guys cover a lot of ground. It's incredible.
Well, we're beyond excited to have you. And I know you're super busy, like all over the country, giving speeches and writing books and leading the church and the Dream Center. And guys, just real quick, if you don't know what the Dream Center is, first of all, you need to go there. Okay. I've been lucky enough to go there several times, and I couldn't even begin to tell you the amazing things that they do to serve people. So just to name off a couple of them, they have rehabilitation programs and addiction programs. Pastor Matthew leads the church, 7 out of 7 days a week. They feed hundreds of families every single day, homeless families. They have, housing for our veterans. They have housing for runaway teens. They have places and programs that trafficking victims can stay. I've been able to go to the women's program there and seen a lot of the people that Pastor Matthew has helped serve. They give away shoes in the summer to kids who don't have shoes. They give away Christmas gifts to kids in the winter who don't get to have Christmas gifts. And that's always been really near and dear to my heart. So when I tell you that Pastor Matthew has created such an amazing service of people, and just what they do there is there's nothing like I've ever seen it. So Pastor Matthew, just to kind of give you that introduction, I'm going to kind of shut up, but I've heard your story and a lot of it and what you've accomplished. And while you serve so many people and it is nonprofit, there's a lot of entrepreneurism and business, and you have a huge staff and just so much, a lot of rejection that you've had to overcome. So everyone on this call is in a different place, right? Some people just started with us. This could be their first day. Some people are new agents, right? They're just like, do I have to spend the money on leads? What does that look like? This is a new journey for them. There's some people who have been here a while and maybe they're in a rut or they need to get better. And some people are completely crushing it. So I'd love to just kind of hear, your story and any advice you have for us, and, from a business standpoint or any standpoint at all that can help us get better.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to share with you guys today. I was just thinking about this and how leadership is tough. I mean, keeping a company going, keeping a business going, or anything going it's a really challenging thing. Matter of fact, the fact that you're here today on Labor Day, how cool is that? I mean, you guys are here going the extra mile. It's just amazing. But I was just walking in, even today, it's like when you're leading something and you're leading a movement, there's just no time off. It's just always moving and going. And so walking in here, a family was homeless, waiting on the steps, and I just said, "How can I help you?" And she just said, "I have 4 children with me, and we're homeless. We're living in our cars." And I just told our team, I said, "Let's make one more room available." And they said, "Well, the floor is full." I'm like, "Well, let's find a place that's not being used and just bring them in and help them." And this mother and her children were jumping up and down and going down the hall, and I think one of the cool things about an organization is you try to be as organized as possible so that you can be spontaneous. I think a lot of times people think that they're enemies, like chaos and instability, but I think they go hand in hand. The more stable you are, the more you can take risk and kind of step out and try new things. And so just, today it was just a reminder. And I'm going to talk to you about 7 things I've learned in leadership. And just when you think you've learned it all, you've learned a whole lot of new things along the way. But first of all, I want to say how proud I am of every single one of you. You're going for it. You're working hard. And those of you that might be a little bit tired on the journey, it doesn't make you less of a leader or less. It just means that you're human. You get to those places in your life. And so I just want to talk just more from the heart. The Dream Center started 30 years ago. Well, it will be 30 years next week, my 30th year anniversary. Started at 20 years of age. Only supposed to be here for 3 months in LA because my dad had a little church building and nobody would take over the job. There's like 18 people left in the whole church. And he said, "Would you help me come here so I could find somebody who could take over the job?" And now it's been 30 years. We still haven't found anybody. I'm still the one here. But I learned some great lessons in life. I learned so many things over the last 3 decades of staying in a city that so many people have left. Of starting in just a little old building that nobody could find off of Temple Street, where all the gang activity was happening in the city. And now I'm looking over the freeway, the Hollywood freeway, a 410,000 square foot building that's housing hundreds of people every single day whose lives are being changed. And the journey is will surprise you. And I think the more that you stay in it every day and you celebrate the days that are amazing, and then you learn to find value in the days that are just mundane, that maybe nothing great happens, but you showed up and you succeeded one more day, you got a little bit closer. And that's been a real great learning experience of our life, because I came from a very successful family. My father was the first pastor ever to reach 10,000 people. And I started at 18, and we went down to 2 people in the first year. And I go home every night feeling like a failure. I'm like, well, what am I doing here? I can't do this job, and maybe it's beyond me. And I went home and cried every night. And it felt like momentum was so hard to find. Like momentum seems so elusive. It's like, where am I going to find any type, of momentum to go forward? And then one day I looked around, and this is what I kept saying. I kept saying to myself over and over, this is a mistake I made. And this is what turned the corner. In the early days when I was failing over and over again, what I would do is I would say all the time, I would talk about what I didn't have. Oh, if I had this, if I had a secretary, I was a secretary. If I had this person or that, I could do a lot of great things. There's a lot of people that will talk about if they had things, then they would do great things. But the truth is, I learned one powerful principle that I think has carried over to our whole organization. Number 1 of the 7 is learn to build on what you have. Learn to build on what you have. You always have something. Even if it's the beginning phase of your operation, build on that. Be excited about it. It's not always about getting to the arrival place that will make you happy. And man, if I could just get there, then I feel like I'll be happy. The journey is so exciting. And just build on what you do have. Build on the little bit of momentum, the little bit of things that are going your way, the little things that you do right, or the people around you. When I first started, I despised the little group that I had because I thought it wasn't enough. But then one day I realized that my attitude was wrong. I had to build on what we had. And that is, we had a couple of committed people who are ready to run through a wall. And I no longer ever talked like we didn't have anything anymore. I kept saying, we're going to do great things. We're going to accomplish big things. You know what? We might have 3 people. We got 3 of the greatest people in the whole world. And just begin to believe. And I stopped that mindset of thinking to myself, man, if I just had more, if I had this, I could do that. And I learned to celebrate what I had. And what it did was it kept me going to get more. Because you need to keep yourself encouraged. And there's sometimes in your business that there won't be people around to encourage you. And you're going to have to find a way to encourage yourself. I would literally drive down the road. I would get out of the car. I would open the door and act like I was sitting next to myself in the car. And I would pep talk myself. I'd say, you're doing a good job. You're doing amazing. And that's all I had. It was just, I had to encourage myself. I was 20 years of age in LA, scared of my own shadow, in a little building surrounded by gangs in every direction. It was totally uncommon for me to be here. And so I just put that desk on the sidewalk. And I said, I don't have an office, so I'll move on the sidewalk. And I would just give away bags of candy to all the moms in the neighborhood that would walk by and give candy away and just celebrated what I had and learn. I wanted more, but in order to get more, I had to keep myself inspired along the journey by finding those things. Number 1, building on what you have. And number 2, celebrating small wins. In the very beginning, celebrate small wins, especially with the people that work for you. We got a bunch of people that work for us. We have a guy, it was funny, he was a South Central gang member. And he graduated our program. And this guy, he was on YouTube videos, man, with machine guns, LA riots. I mean, hardcore gang member. And he said, Pastor, I want to work on your staff. Big guy, 6'4", looked like a linebacker. And he just from the streets of South Central down the road here. And he goes, I want to learn how to work in the office. And that guy got in every day. He never used a computer in his life. He didn't know anything, just from the streets. And he got on there every day, and we started teaching him. And he sent his first email. And he's like, I think I learned how to send an email. And I said, man, that's amazing. I said, are you kidding? That's incredible. And I said, you did it, man. And then he began to cry. This big old, I'm talking 250 pounds, 6'4", former gang member and part of the Crip gang members of South Central. He looked me in the eye and he said, nobody's ever celebrated a victory for me. Nobody's ever got excited about anything that I've done that's been positive. The courts threw me in prison, and I deserved it. I made mistakes, but that's the first time somebody ever celebrated just simply because a guy hit send and learned how to figure out something. And I realized very quickly how really defeated a lot of the people are in our culture, how broken they are. I think you want to challenge people, motivate them, inspire them, teach them to be the hardest worker in the room and to go for it. But then when they do succeed, find little things that they're doing that are doing well. Because here, you build on what you have, number one. Number two, you celebrate small wins. And so, finding momentum in your organization is oftentimes a very big responsibility of the leader. And you all know, like within your group or your team, that there's times you kind of feel that momentum starts to wane a little bit. And really, it's the leader, who gets a lot of the praise. But I tell you, we get a lot of the other stuff too, right? We have to deal with so many things. But kind of be the temperature gauge of momentum. And the way you do that is by celebrating, and talking about good things. And sometimes I'll go to a meeting and with people who've just been there for a few years, and they'll look at where we're at, and I say, you know what, we're going to get through this thing. We're going to get through this thing. My dad used to tell me years ago, one of the greatest leaders of our day. My dad told me this. He said, you might feel frustrated, but never talk about to your organization about, I don't think we're going to make it. Because he always said, even rats desert a sinking ship. He said, no matter what, don't have that sinking ship mentality. You just find a way to get excited, find a way to get motivated about something. There's times in my life where I get tired or petty and maybe have a little pity party, and just think about things in life. And then all I simply do is I just get on the elevator, go to the 14th floor, see 130 men in our drug and alcohol rehab program coming out of prison. And I just walk around there and I realize that there's so much more going for you than you realize. I think many times we're so tough on ourselves because we want to be somewhere, and the key is to get there, but there's things you have to do along the way to get there. You got to build on what you have, celebrate great successes, and then give people, number three, a reason, give people a vision of why they want to succeed. Why do you want to succeed? Because there's a lot of people that want to succeed, but when you want to succeed for all the wrong reasons, only just to have and not to build a life for your family, or have a so that attached to this. If there's no so that, then so what, right? What are you doing it for? So that, we're doing this so that we can have a better life for our children. We're doing this so that not only can we sponsor one of our kids to go to college, but somebody else, and that's really helped us actually find that help people to succeed long term. Because many times when they're just succeeding to have more stuff, that's oftentimes the motivation that drives people not to succeed long term, because there's nothing foundational that's important. It could be something so simple as like a local soccer program you sponsor, or whatever it may be, just anything. When you serve others, that's the best that we will always be in life. And so I've just learned to give people a vision of, why do you want to succeed? Why do you want to do this for? Yeah, to have a good life? Wonderful. That's great. That's part one. What's part two? Why do you want to succeed? And, when people have no vision, they have no restraint. They have no reason to have self-control if they don't have anything that's really great to live for. So by giving someone something great to live for, it allows them to stay in the journey because they're working for a greater cause and working for a greater good. And that's why I've loved FFL so much, because you guys are just constantly looking for ways to use your influence to make a difference and to bless others, and give people a reason why they want to succeed. And that's so important, because there's so much of life that happens through the blessing of just giving to everyone and serving people that always comes back on you. So number 4, outlast everything. Outlast everything. When I came to LA, I was a 20-year-old kid from Phoenix, Arizona, who's never spent more than 1 hour a day in the inner city. I'd go to the neighborhood and walk around and I'd say, I'm here, guys. I'm here for good. We're in it to win it. And they would look at me and say, yeah, you're just making promises like everybody else. You guys will leave when times get tough. Everyone leaves. And I realized that I couldn't, all the critics, when we bought the building, we bought this hospital, people thought we were crazy. They literally We had $50,000 a year in our offering, and we were buying a building that's $4 million. That's one of the most famous, well, it was 16 million. Paramount Studios was going to buy it, but the Catholic Church agreed to sell to us for $4 million. Every film in Hollywood was filmed in this building for 8 years. Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, like all the tunnels and the Freddy Krueger tunnels, all that crazy stuff, all filmed here. Joker movie, everything. And so you walk around and you see this place, and back then, and everyone was sending us hate mail. People are sending us messages saying that you guys are irresponsible, you're reckless, your vision is too big, you only have $50,000, and why are you trying to buy a building that you don't have money for? But we had a dream, and this is what I realized. I mean, I was looking at the kind of the hate mail I was getting, and I wasn't even really mad at the haters, because I'm like, you are absolutely right. Why are we doing this? But never allow fear to overcome your curiosity to more that can be done, what more you can do, the greater difference that you can make. And although there was so much against us and so much self-doubt on the journey of buying it, it wasn't like this is going to happen. It was like, it might happen, it might not happen, but we're gonna die moving forward. We're gonna fall forward. We're gonna keep our feet moving forward. And then we found so many miracles that happened. We had two guys, they both gave $1 million to help us buy this building. When they heard that we were trying something so crazy, they were like, you guys look like you need help. And they showed up, and the father and son gave us $1 million apiece to buy this building. And that was the confidence we need. The truth is, a lot of people are going to doubt what's in your heart to do. They're going to say things and doubt what you can do, maybe even the ones closest to you. But don't be inspired to prove those people wrong. You just be inspired to do what is right and to succeed so that you can make a difference in this world. And I would read all that emails, and I just thought, I'm still going to go forward. I'm still going to see what's out there and move ahead. And I remember we had a little piece of paper, my dad and I, we went to a little place, and we said, what are we doing? Leadership is scary. I mean, all of you, you're walking to scary territories, man. You have all these big dreams. I'm so proud of you guys because you're going for it. And with it comes a lot of self-doubt along the way. And then, sometimes a desire to want to quit, but that's okay, because wanting to quit is a sign of success, because it means that you have something to quit. Only successful people can have the desire to want to quit. And so we sat there, my dad and I were like, we have no money. And we had two pieces of paper. We wrote down our pros and cons, a little old napkin in a place in downtown LA called the Pantry. And we were sitting there, we're saying, should we buy the building? The pros and cons. And the pros are, we started off with the pros, the cons of why we shouldn't do it. We looked at our, list, and it was full. It was like, we don't have any money. That's a big con. Number two, all my staff are ex-cons. I mean, that's another big con right there. And so we started writing all the cons down on that piece of paper. And then we went to the pros. And then we looked at it, and I said, do you have one, Dad? He goes, I don't have one. Do you have one? I said, I can't think of one reason why we should do it. And then finally, we just put down on a piece of paper, what if? What if it worked? What if an iconic building in LA underneath the Hollywood sign can be known for picking up the broken pieces of the Hollywood dream? Those who have fallen beneath the shadows, those who have been broken. What if there would be a place that would never sleep, that would be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? The liquor stores are, so many bad things in the city are open 24 hours. So why not have a place that will be open 24/7? And all we had is one what if. And then we had all these cons. But can I tell you, in order for your dream to become a reality, the pros and cons don't have to line up for it to be a dream. Usually they won't. Usually they shouldn't. The pros and cons shouldn't add up. And if all you have is a what if, you can run on that for the next 10 years of your life. You can run on that maybe for your entire life. And so I realized that, I couldn't change people's perception in the community about this place overnight. And I just heard their concerns about people coming and going. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to outlast everything. I'm going to outlast people that said we couldn't do it. I'm going to outlast people's perceptions of why we're here. I'm just going to be faithful. There's something so beautiful about falling in love with working hard and being faithful. Because what happens is, you start accomplishing great things along the way, but there's a certain kind of peace when you know that you're in it to win it and you're not turning back, because you know that you have time. You're going to get there. You're going to keep improving. You get a little bit better. And a lot of little days add up to big days in your life. And then incredible things begin to happen. And so the moment I just said, you know what, I went home and I had all these ideas of what I thought would be success. And then I just said, I'm just going to fall in love with working hard, being faithful, and giving all I have. And you know what happened? Everything that I put down on my 5-year goals were so small compared to what happened when I just committed myself to the task and the vision. And I began to exceed all those things that I had. So we just outlasted everything, outlasted crime, outlasted the liquor stores, we're the only business that's left in the community. But when you hang in there one day at a time, and sometimes you get to the place where you don't know if you can make it, but go home, get a good night's sleep, and wake up, because oftentimes we wake up in the morning with a new inspiration. And that brings me to point number 5. Don't make important decisions. Don't make important decisions when your decision maker is broken. When you're tired, when you're angry, when you're frustrated, those are the times that you just find a way and get away from it all and just say nothing. And don't make important decisions about your job, your company, when you're fatigued, when you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're at a place where you're not thinking right. We've all been there. And so don't make an important decision when your decision maker is broken, meaning that there's times where we're just not thinking clear. We're in panic mode and we're trying to figure out, what to do next. Make important decisions when you're in the right place to make those decisions. And trust me, in 30 years, I've made every mistake along this way. I've made decisions with broken decision maker when I was fatigued or angry out of frustration, rather than just really taking time to make the proper decisions. And number 6, set an example as a leader. Leadership is an interesting place because you get all the encouragement and the applause, but it doesn't compare with oftentimes the hardship of what you deal with. But you got to set an example. There's 2 times in my life that it was kind of like a really humiliating walk that I had to take and talk to the team. And in 30 years, all that's happened, there's twice I've had to literally, I'm not asking you to do this. Your sacrifices are your own, you're different. But, or twice I had to empty everything I had in the bank in order to keep the ministry going, keep the Dream Center going. And I went home and I just felt so awful. I said, I'm such a failure, and I was just really down on myself, and then I just realized, that's what leadership does. We make sacrifices. We do hard things. We go the extra mile. We show up 10 minutes before anybody else, an hour before anybody else. And we're always there, and just willing to make those decisions and make hard decisions and tough decisions and, decisions when you're dealing with someone that, you've got to let go. And it's a very tough thing. That's the hardest thing for me. I'm more of a visionary. I have a hard time with those things. I've had to learn over the years to make hard decisions, and I don't sleep well at night before I have to do them. Some people have the gift of, dealing with problems and doing it well. And me, I'm more of a person that likes the victories and just keep going, vision. But there's times that you have to set an example as a leader. You have to make decisions that, protect your team and keep them in line and keep the momentum going and all those things. But always just be willing to make the extra sacrifice, to go the extra mile, to do the extra thing. I mean, because as much as you're teaching everyone around you, more is caught than is taught. People are catching more of what you're doing through your actions more than anything else. And if you're at a place in your life, and I know it's different. I know there's different stages of life, and there's times in leadership where I'm in the trenches every day with them, doing everything together. Like during COVID and the food line, we all just put our hand to the plow. When COVID hit, we opened up a food pantry, and all of a sudden it turned into 10,000 people a day. But that was a time I knew that as a leader, I had to go back into the valley, into the need, and serve with the people 6 hours a day on the front line. Now that hasn't been always, 30 years, but there's times you got to be willing as a leader to get to a place to where maybe you have to get back into the trenches again. You got to go back in there and kind of and then you get a place where you're in a place where you're leading more people and navigating. But as a leader, you'll go through all kinds of seasons. Some you'll be on the front lines and jump in with everyone because you feel like, there's an example that needs to be set. There's other times you're leading through management and all that. But as a leader, just be willing, no matter what, to do whatever you got to do to set an example, to make a difference. One day it was funny. Everyone was like sitting around complaining, about like, oh man, I don't know how we're going to make it through. And I don't know how we're going to be able to afford everything. And there's just like a lot of doubt in the room. And so a guy texted me in the middle of the meeting, literally, and he said, his name is Phil, and Phil runs a big company out here. And Phil said, Pastor Matthew, have you ever heard about these guys running the World Marathon Challenge? I go, what's that? They go, 7 marathons in 7 continents in 7 days. I'm like, in a row? He goes, yes, let me show you an article. So I read it. And then I looked at it in the middle of the meeting. I'm looking at the article. And then he texts me back and he says, I will give you $100,000 right now if you commit to run 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 consecutive days. And I thought to myself, well, you know what? It's 9 months from now. It's a long time. Have you ever committed yourself to something long-term, thinking that it's so far away, it will never get there? It always gets there eventually. It really does. And so I started training every day, 80 to 100 miles. And I just told our team, I said, well, guys, everyone's kind of concerned about how we're going to get through this. I got the answer right here. Guys offering $100,000. I run 7 marathons. We got our problem solved right now. And I said, okay, if you send it in 48 hours, I'll do it. Problem solved. And I thought, man, as a leader, there's times you just got to kind of throw yourself out there. And it was the hardest training I've ever been through in my life. I mean, I got up to about 110 miles a week. I would go into the office at like 8 o'clock. So I would start at 5 in the morning, already running 16, 17 miles a day. And we went to Antarctica. We went to Miami, Madrid, Morocco, Dubai, and Australia in 7 days, 168 hours. We hit every single continent. It's amazing as a leader what you can do when you push yourself. There's always another gear inside of you. There's always, just when you think there's nothing left, there's so much more inside of you that you can pull out that we don't even often know. And that's why we ought to take on big tasks sometimes, and things that are bigger than us, and things that, are so big that it's going to feel impossible to accomplish. But people rally around a great dream and a great need, and they saw that journey. And then, I tore my knee, halfway through my 4th marathon. And I didn't think I was going to make it. I locked my leg. I had 8 hours to complete it, or we get eliminated from the competition. But I found a way to lock the leg and run 3.5 marathons, Frankenstein leg, the whole way to the end of the challenge, literally walking, jogging like Frankenstein. And I got to the end of it, and I thought to myself, isn't it great as a leader that there's times where things are smooth or flowing, you have great momentum. And there's times as a leader, you just got to make extraordinary sacrifices. But those are monumental moments. And as a leader, sometimes you have to set an example on those type of things and really step out and go the extra mile. And again, leadership will come and go in phases. You'll go through times where you're just, but always be willing to be the leader when it's needed, to jump back into the mix and go shoulder to shoulder with people and do battle with them in the trenches. There's times for that, and there's seasons for that. And we're never beyond that as a leader. Still after 30 years today, I go out in outreaches. I force myself to go out in the food truck. We're giving away food every day in the community and families, because as a leader, you've got to have a big vision, but you have to allow yourself to stay connected to what is going on a day-to-day level. Number 7, this is one of my favorite ones. This is my final point. Speak to people's potential, not to their need. There are a lot of, when people come into our rehab program, the first thing we tell people when they walk into rehab, we're talking about meth, fentanyl addiction, people who look like zombies oftentimes coming up under the bridges when they walk into this building. And they come through the program and, help them get detox. They're supposed to detox 14 days before they come here, to give us a little bit of head start. But the truth is most don't. We take them in. It's families desperate to save their children, are dying, and just 24/7 life or death stuff. And when people come in here, one of the things that we do is they come in so broken. Once they kind of get their head clear a little bit, this is what we ask them. What is your dream? And it freaks them out because they're just thinking about getting by. They're thinking about survival. They're thinking about, maybe one day I can be free. But we ask them, what is their dream? And the reason why we ask them that question is because we're trying to speak to their potential, not to their need. Because when people have something great to live for, they can do great things. And so when that happens, we start speaking to that potential. What happens is they begin to rise up above just wanting to get free and come off drugs after a year in the program. They start succeeding and excelling. And many times as a leader, you gotta call things out in people that they don't see in themselves, because they're facing the battle of family limitations they've been raised under. They're facing the battle of words that have been spoken to them as children. You'll never be enough. You'll just be like your old man. There's a history behind every single person that you work with. And there's a lot of limiting forces and battles. And there's gang members in the neighborhood by the liquor store I used to talk to all the time. One of those guys, I said, one of these days you're going to be on my staff, working for my staff, drinking a 40, all these gang members laughing at me. And I'm saying that. I'm like, you can laugh at me, but one day you're going to be on my staff. The guy comes to our 1-year program. He graduates. He goes to college. He graduates. Now he's a pastor. And we took him out of the neighborhood. He's doing great things. And in a different state, he's just doing amazing things. And it's just speaking to people's potential all the time, and you're not going to offend people if you ask more of them. You're not going to offend people if you say, you know what, I believe you had 50, you go to 100, or 100, you can go to 200. And challenge people to do great things. Believe in them. But it's not enough to just challenge them, but you got to believe in them from your heart. You got to just speak that to them. I believe you could do great things. Not, you must do great things. I believe you could do great things. I believe you can accomplish. I've seen the way you work with people. Find something about them that is great and accentuate the positive in them until the point to where they have no way out of it except to believe that it is true. They can do these things, because most people are so bound by limiting factors that tell them you can only go so far, so fast, and accomplish so much. And you oftentimes will have to be that person that just unconditionally believes in their dream. By closing, I close with this. My dad, when I came here, he was the most successful pastor in the country. I was 20. And I started just loving people, walking through Skid Row, living on Skid Row, homeless, to identify with what was going on in the homeless community. My heart was so wrapped up in the trenches here. And when I told my dad about this building, and he has a lot of friends and influence, and I told him I said, let's don't find an auditorium. Let's just find the big old hospital and take in every single person who's in need. The crazy thing was this. My father never once said, you can't do that. You're not prepared for that. You're not qualified for that. You didn't go to college for that. He said, sounds great. And 10 years later, I asked my dad, I said, Dad, why didn't you question me on that? Why didn't you critique me on that? Why didn't you tell me that I was unable to do that? It wasn't in my comfort zone or sphere of what was possible. And this is what he said. I'll never forget it. He said, I saw the spark that was in your eyes to want to do something great. And he said, I'd never wanted to come in the way of that, because I knew that I could possibly squash something that could make history. I didn't understand it. I didn't know if you could pull it off, but I knew it was in your heart. I knew it was in your eyes. And I said, yes. He didn't critique me to give me advice. He just said, go for it. And I'm unconditionally going to get behind you and support whatever's in your heart to do. That was a day that I went from a 16-year-old kid with a stuttering problem. I could barely speak when I was 16. I had a horrible stuttering problem. When I stood up to say that one day I was going to pastor a church, everyone laughed. I can barely get the announcement out. Learned to speak by speaking to the trees out in Tonganoxie, Kansas, where my grandma lives in the summer. And every night going home and crashing on messages, when the church would invite me to speak, I would fall apart. And I would hear pastors say things like, it's sad to hear this young man do something, but he's really not able to do. I heard him over say that one time after I failed a message. And I go home, my grandma just kept saying, keep speaking to those trees. And she'd go, tell me, you're doing a great job. You can do it. And I realized over all those people's lives, is speaking to people's potential. And my dad believing in the potential of this vision, although he didn't understand it. You need to oftentimes dream for people that don't really know how to dream. Dream for people that never thought that was a possibility. Speak great things over their life and show them how to do it. And you guys are the best at it. You're providing all these resources. But there's ways that you can motivate people and encourage them to do great things by just simply speak to people's, not their needs. As a leader, you don't want to go around solving everybody's drama and needs and all that. Speak to people's potential. You can do it. You can rise up. You can do great things. And when you do that as a leader, you hit the sweet spot where they might not always appreciate it in the beginning, but years down the road, they might look back and say, man, you're the one person who believed I could do it. Challenge, work hard, encourage people, and inspire them to do great things. And it's an honor to be with you guys here today. And it's a great privilege of my life being anywhere near you guys, because you guys could be teaching me a lot, but that's what I've learned over the years.
Wow. Pastor Matthew, thank you so much for getting on with us tonight. And it really does give us so much perspective, because, you know, we haven't accomplished what you have, but we can relate so much of what you said to this business, right? And it gives you perspective, because we're, you know, dialing the phone, or we have a hard day, or something crashes on our computer, or we have to put a couple $100 into leads or something crazy like that. And you're running 7 marathons in 7 days in 7 continents with a broken leg to get 100K for the Dream Center, right?
That's why I love FFL so much, because we carry the same spirit. So it's a whatever it takes mentality sometimes, you know, we're just grinding it out there, fighting for little ounces of ground all the time. And that's why we're so connected.
Yeah. And I love it so much. And this has been amazing. And I think just from a mental standpoint of how blessed we are and the potential that we all have, right? So guys, if this is this your first day or your 500th day, or maybe now this is a shift that you're going to make? I just think we can learn so much from you, and we're just so blessed to have you on with us tonight. And I cannot thank you enough.
Thank you, guys.
All right, guys, I will see you back on Dials, and I will see you back on the call in 2 weeks. Again, Pastor Matthew's amazing, guys. If you go look up the Dream Center, you can see everything that they are doing, everything they're accomplishing. You can give money if you feel like it. You can see, you can buy Pastor Matthew's books. He really is amazing. I've been there several times, and when he says he's out in the trenches, even after 30 years, sacrificing, he really is doing that. So I love you guys. I'm excited. I'm glad we had this call. Anything I can do to help, let's take what we learned today. Those 7 points, I wrote them down. If you need me to send them to you, I can. And let's go out and conquer. So bye, guys.